Hi everyone, I'm Aziz and I welcome you to another video in this series where we discuss output-based JavaScript interview questions. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so let's start with the first question. So here you can see that we have a function and this function is accepting two arguments. And then we are doing a constructor call to this function by passing John and Smith to the respective arguments. And in return, we will get the instance of this person function. Okay. And over here, we are adding one property to this person function. Inside this, we are printing the first name and the last name. And in the last statement, we are calling the getFullName function or method on the member object. Now we have to guess the output of this code snippet. So here let's take a moment and think about the output of this code snippet. Once you are done, you can resume watching this video. Alright, so let me run this program first. And as you can see that we got the error, and the error says type error, member getFullName is not a function. Now the question over here is, even though we have added the getFullName property on this person function, still we are getting the getFullName is not a function. Why is it so? Well, here we have to understand one thing, that in JavaScript, the functions are callable objects. And as the functions are callable objects, we can add property to that function. Okay? But if we want to make this getFullName function available to all the instances of this function, then we should add the getFullName property on the prototype of this person function. And how we can do it? We can do it like this: person prototype getFullName, like this. Okay, so when we do like this, and then when we create the new instance of this person function, we get the getFullName method in all the instances of the person object. Great. So moving on to next question. Over here we can see that again we have a person function, and this function is accepting two arguments. Now here we are making a constructive call to this function by passing John and Smith to this function. And over here we are simply calling this function by passing Sarah and Smith to this function. Remember that here we are not making the constructive call. Okay. Now you have to guess that what will be the output when we console log John and Sarah on the console. Okay. So let me run this code snippet. And you can see that first output is the person object and the second is undefined. Now the question is why we got the undefined in the second console log. Okay. So let's understand. So here when we do the constructive call to this function, internally, implicitly, one new object will be created. Okay, like this. So this is equal to new object. So whatever property we add here will be added to this newly object, and in return we get the newly created object, which is why we got person printed on the console. Now here we are not calling the person function with the new keyword. So it is just a normal function call. And we are also not returning anything from this person function, and which is why the Sarah variable is still holding the undefined value, which is why we got the undefined on the console. Amazing. So let's move to another question. Now here you can see that we have initialized the number variable with the value 0, and then we are logging the 3 console log over here. So here we are doing number plus plus, here we are doing plus plus number, and here we are only simply logging the number. Okay. So let's guess the output of this code snippet. So here you can see that number plus plus seems like the one statement, but for JavaScript engine it is a two different statement. The first statement says get me the value of number, and the second statement says increment the value of number by 1. Okay. Now try to guess the output of this code snippet. Alright, so let me run this code snippet for you and see the output. So here we got 022. Why is it so? So when we call number plus plus, the first statement is going to return the value of number, right? Because these are two different statements, and that value will be console log, right? In this case, the value is 0. And then the second statement is the plus plus. So the value of 0 will be incremented by 1. Now it becomes 1. Now in the second log, first statement is increment the value of number by 1. So here the value of number 1. Now here the value of number becomes 1, and here the value of number becomes 2. Okay, and then the second statement is again get the value of number. So this time first it's gonna increment the value of number by 1, and then it's gonna return the value of number which is equal to 2, which is why we got 2 in the console. And in the last we are simply logging the value of number, and which is equal to 2. Okay, so which is why we got 0, 2 and 2. Amazing. I hope so far everything is clear. Okay, so let's move to another example. Now here we have a function with the name getPersonInfo, which is again accepting 3 arguments, 1, 2 and 3. Then here we have initialized 2 variables with the name person with the value John and age with the value 2. Now this statement is quite confusing. So let me tell you what is this. So here this statement is called tagged template. Okay, so this is a template, literal template, and we are tagging this template with the function. So what it does, it's gonna implicitly call this function by passing some arguments. So when we have the tagged template, the first argument of the function is always the arguments of string. Okay, and the remaining arguments is always the value passed to this expression. Okay, so in this case, what are the strings? The first string is the empty string, the second string is this string, and the third string is this string. And the values are, the first value is going to be the person, the value of person, which is a John, and the second argument is the value of age, which is equal to 25. Okay, so let me run this code snippet for you. So here you can see that first is the array of strings, okay, and second value is the John, and the third value is the 25. Wonderful, so far so great. So let's move to the last example of this video. So here we have a function with the name checkAge, okay, and this function is accepting one object. So here we are calling this function, passing a new object to this function. Now here we are using triple equal sign, which means we are doing the strict equality check. Okay, so here we have a 2 double equal, which means we are doing the loose equality check here, and in the last we are simply logging the message in the console. Now you have to tell me what would happen if we call this function. Okay, so let me run the code snippet again to show you the output. So we are getting you do not have an age, I guess. But the question over here is why we are getting this output. So the reason is pretty simple. When we do the strict equality check or the normal equality check, if we have objects on both the side of the equal statement, then in case of objects, the references are compared. It is absolutely different with the primitives. When we compare primitives, the usually comparison happens with the value of the primitives. But in case of objects, the references are compared. So if we look at this code snippet carefully, this object is an entirely different object which is created entirely in a separate location in the memory. And this is the entirely separate object which is created entirely in a different location in the memory. And the addresses of both the objects are different, which is why when we check both the objects by using triple equal or double equal, it's gonna check or it's gonna compare the references of both the objects. And as the references are different, it will give false. So the first statement will becomes false. The second if statement is also going to be false, which is why it will fall back to the last else statement, and we get the message on the console. So far so good. So this is pretty much all about these 5 questions. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.